What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of You Can't Do That Anymore, a movie podcast where we look back at some of what were or might still be our favorite movies, some classics, and we dig in to see if they're problematic, if they hold up today, what may or may not be smart or good about them. As always, I'm your host, Blake Schultz. With me are my co-host, Terrence Tatum.
Hello.
And Anastasia Washington.
Hello.
You see, I did it in the order.
Thank you.
And with us is a special guest from the Nerd Goat podcast, Reboot It, and soon Ed Greer destroys the man himself. Ed Greer, how are you?
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on and let me prattle about this particular movie.
That's right.
We're ready.
A classic movie, dare I say, an iconic movie from the 90s, right at the end of the 90s, Fight Club, a movie that I love, that I quite enjoy, from one of my favorite directors. So the first question here, what was your first exposure to Fight Club, and did you like it at the time?
I guess that's me. Basically, the story goes, I went to go see it on a last minute lark with my friend. We ended up being hella close to the screen, like as my daddy used to say, we was up in the movie. Uh, so basically, I was like looking hella up at it at an angle for 2 hours, and I got to tell you, when the twist came, I was like, ugh, lame. And then I was like very mad when I left. I really did not like it. And I think on another lark, maybe at a more calm state of mind, more whatever, I went and I just looked at it like again. And it was like an explosion in my head about like, oh yeah, like I really liked it that second time. And I don't think I've had that many experiences like that. Usually your first mind is the best mind for me. But I think in that particular case, I just allowed the circumstances with which I saw it to inflect the situation.
Fair enough. Um, I loved it. I had the video game. I read the book. I was like on that Chuck life for a bit. I think I was going through some shit.
Did you have the soap?
I didn't have the soap, but I like read most of. I can never say his last name. Chuck Paul.
Yeah, I can't pronounce that.
Chuck P.
Yeah, I
And
usually just
checking
say
books.
Palahniuk. I think if you just say Palahniuk, you did a good enough job for government work.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna call him Chuck because we're on that like first name.
That's the thing. Whenever you can't get their last name, become fast friends with them. So you're like, we're very casual. I don't need it.
Good
So
old
I was
Chuck.
all into it, but also like that was that kind of time in my life where I was just like all about that, like I don't know, I was real emo you know, like I was like going through some shit. Like I was tired of being like beat up all the time, so I was like, well, look it, people can beat people back, that's fun.
Well,
And the guys were real hot, so
well, I think the first time I saw it, also, I think I was just almost attacked by how white it was. I think I felt attacked by how white it was. Like some of these concerns, like I know we're gonna get into it later, but just simply the whole like I'm gonna hit rock bottom and find my true self. You're a white dude who can type, who has on his resume a Fortune 500 company,
You're gonna
probably
be
two or
fine.
three jobs.
Yeah.
You cannot hit rock bottom,
Right.
and you know it.
Yeah.
You know it.
Yeah,
So
it's one
like
of,
that was, you know,
I feel like that's something that at least I've kind of realized even about myself in quarantine was I recently was like, well, I guess worst case for me would be like going back to my parents' house, which is a nice house, and starting again. That's not that bad. All right,
Yeah.
well, ooh, this is what privilege is. Okay, I get it. I understand now. I see. Uh, Terrence, how about you? Your first Fight Club? I don't think you and I have ever talked about this movie,
We've
which
never talked about
amazes
this movie,
me.
which is weird because right, I feel like this is both in our wheelhouse. No, I was a huge Fincher fan, so after Seven and the game, which I love the game, I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. So I was one of the few. This was my senior year. Actually, this was my freshman year of college when this first came out. But nobody else wanted to see this movie with me, so I was like, screw it, I'm gonna go by myself, and I did, and I loved it.
It's a good movie to see by yourself. It proves
It,
there might be a second
it
you.
could
You
be
don't
another one
even
me
need
next
people.
to me. Yeah. It
mhm.
it definitely. I think that was definitely at an age where a lot of the things that were themes or philosophies in that movie, it gave me a vocal point. I'm like, yes, I agree with that. Even though like now as I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, some of that's
Yeah, now watching it is
an issue. Yeah.
so different.
Yeah.
Where I am in my life right now,
Correct.
and the things that concern me now, I was like, why was this so important to you? Like,
Yeah.
why was this empowering to you? Because now you're just like watching a whole bunch of white dudes be really upset about their like not so bad life.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say
Mm.
that what Ed brought up, like I didn't think about it when I was watching it when I was a kid and like that point, but now watching,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, these are a lot of just angry white folks, and this is
Yeah.
incels essentially. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and which leads to my first time. Not really.
Speaking of the white privileged male.
So my first time, I had actually just started taking film classes. I was 10 when the movie came out. I missed it in theaters, and my buddy was like, you gotta watch Fight Club. If you're getting into movies, and if this is gonna be your career, it's time. And he got really mad at me because halfway through the movie, I was like, that dude's the same dude as the other dude, right? That's what we're doing? And he was like, you mother, what the, how did you do
Crying
that?
game where everyone's like, you're gonna be so shocked about the crying game. I was like,
But
10 seconds in, they show the picture. I was like, so that's not the secret though, right?
as
That's not the
a,
secret.
and like as a kid who a week before seeing the movie for the first time had learned about mise en scène, I was like, this is one of the single greatest things. Look at the framing and the directing and the. I am a very smart film student because I like Fight Club. Realizing later that it's a very mainstream movie. It's also not that complicated. But that was my first, like, it immediately became one of my favorites. I got everything else Fincher did. I had just discovered him and was 100% that asshole for a while who was like, well, have you seen Fight Club? Which, will elaborate on some of these basic philosophies you might have. And we're really all drones to our 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah.
If you have a 9-to-5 job, you are a drone.
Which you're right. Now I'm like, man, it's a lot of, there's a weird theme I feel like in creative spaces a lot of the times where like a normal job is a prison. And this movie kind of encapsulates on that and is like, well, if you're just working in an office with a nice apartment in a major metropolitan city, you're doing it all wrong.
You're right.
It's like, well, that
was
kinda
basically
sounds
my
nice.
father's whole goal in life.
That's a dude who can go to the doctor whenever he wants.
Right?
I think he's
I was
doing
like,
fine.
when my dad was like a kid in the south side of Chicago, all he wanted to do was get a day 9-to-5 and have a nice.
Yeah.
So then I think that gets us into like the history of it a little bit. Why in 1999 was it so big? And who do you think it was trying to appeal to? And what was it about this that made us all be like, ooh? Whoever wants to dive in first.
It's weird because again I said I was super being that bridge between high school and college when you just don't know what the hell is happening next. Like everything's kind of coming at you fast. You're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to. I don't know what the work life is. I don't know what this is. But I'm out here going through the motions and trying it. This was a film that kind of spoke to me on a level like no, apparently no one knows, and this is all just one big just clusterfuck. We're just all in this, and no one has any type of actual plan. And so this movie also came at the same time as like Eminem in my life with like being in Detroit. So like just two angry films, just anger coming at every which way. And I was like, oh, this is my way of my outlet to speak about all of this at one time through film and music at the same time. And it's just like, wow, I was a very angsty kid apparently.
Well, I guess you weren't as angsty as Anastasia, because damn, she just went in on the angst. I was like, oh, damn.
I was angsty. I'm a light-skinned biracial kid. Do you think I was jumped all the time, dude?
While you were saying what you were saying, I just kept thinking of that yin and yang table in the Fight Club dudes did. I was like, Anastasia's the yin and yang table. Oh my god.
You can buy me at IKEA. I'm just kidding. You cannot. That's stupid.
We're a very angsty group. It's all angry hip hop and pop punk. If my hair didn't go out this way, it would be down like Fall Out Boy. It's
You got the flock of seagulls, DJ. But look, what I'm saying is this: my personal experience with it. I mean, you said that people like what made it so big. Well, I don't want to be that guy as I push my glasses up, but like it wasn't that big
I was
until
gonna
it hit
say,
video. Like what?
yeah.
Like the people. You said who it was for. I kind of remembered the questions that I like. Person, camera, TV, man, woman. You said basically who was it for? And I think that was the crux of the problem. The people that it appealed to, like dudes just beating each other up and getting their lives back. We didn't have a great war, but we could have a war amongst ourselves of the spirit, blah, blah, blah. That demographic went to go see it, and in their bones, they felt the satire that said that all that was stupid,
Hmm.
and they rejected it while they were in the movie theater. And I gotta say, if I'm gonna really run back the tape, as much as my uncomfortable experience of seeing the movie, I think I felt attacked on both the white and the black. I'm not quite biracial, so like it's just I feel like when you looked at this movie as a male, you could feel attacked for wanting that aggression and wanting to feel all those feelings. You could feel attacked for that, but then you go, this isn't an accurate representation of XYZ. You start getting, you start popping your own damn neck at the movie. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And it's just there's this gamut of feelings. So like I think I might have seen it, saw myself in it, rejected it, then came back and realized that it wasn't talking about me because I want an apartment, like at the station was saying. I
Right.
want, you
That's
know.
all good. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, the movie does like thrust its own needs and agendas on you. It very much takes you as a blank canvas and is like, well, our generation didn't have the exact quote you did. We didn't have a Great War. We didn't have a Great Depression. And there was some weird part of me, and maybe to kind of Anastasia's joke slash point of like, I'm the privileged white boy from Chicago slash the North Shore. There was a part of me that was like, yeah, I don't have any of that. And there's like a weird chip on your shoulder about that where you're like, well, I want to experience some shit too. But it can be a philosophical battle. I can have this. That was almost my rebellion, was like high school and everything else being like, this is the path and these are the rules, and you're going to take these classes and you're going to put them into the capitalist machine and pull the lever, and out will come a house and a picket fence and a golden retriever. And I very much was like, no, fuck all of that. What if I don't value the same things you value? Like, what about all this? And I maybe was just the right age or just going through the right textbook at the time of like,
Yeah.
ooh, like
But
someone's there.
but
Yeah.
also, and one last thing, I think it didn't need to be that good. I think a lot of the glasses hipsters, uh, film scenists type of people who latched onto it realized one fact about the movie. It could have said all of those messages, like the surface messages of it, and been directed by Simon West or Michael Bay or anybody. The fact that it was so well made, doing all that,
Yeah.
it hit the public weird. It hit intellectuals weird. It was a
It was a
ninja star you can't catch with your bare hands.
Yeah, it was a very
Yeah.
divisive film. Like, I mean, we're old enough. Like, Blake, you weren't like the studio did not like this film. Like, they put
Mhm.
this out. They were dumping this. They didn't put marketing money behind it. I was like, I don't know who the hell wants to watch this. This movie's not going to do well, and it didn't do well in the theaters. Like, when I say I was only one in the theater, like, who wanted to go see it? That's because nobody else wanted to see it with me, and the
Yeah, I
theater
think
was
I
pretty
went to
empty
like a
when I was there.
Lamley or like a very small theater to see it,
Yeah.
because I was that film nerd that was like, ooh, there's a new blah blah blah, a movie, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I saw the problematic nature of it that much because I was just in the frame of mind to like, yeah, to like say fuck the world in any
I
moment,
mean, I
you
think that's
know?
part of the movie, though. There's something very
Yeah,
cathartic about music, about art, about anything that kind of when they just put a big middle finger up to
yeah,
any sense of normalcy, you are sort of like, yeah, burn it all to the ground. Like, especially when you're younger. I mean,
yeah.
when you don't really know any better, like they blow up all the banks, and now I'm like, why would you blow up all the banks? We need the
Right.
banks.
We
They're
need the bank.
bad, and we should break them up, but not like this.
I think there wasn't that expectation put on, like, it's a different kind of, like, you guys as males probably got it to speak to you in a completely different way than it did to me because I didn't I knew it wasn't like kind of tailored to me, but I got what I want. Like I got what I got from it. You know what I mean? But I didn't get it wasn't for me. I'm not the person that's gonna, get the 9 to 5. I'm not the one that's gonna get the apartment. I know who I am. This is not my
Yeah, it definitely isn't, as Terrence and
I'm
I's
not.
market research
Yeah,
world would say, a 4 quadrant movie. This is a
yeah,
like male
I
movie,
mean,
which
the male
this
movie. Yeah.
movie is the male id of the 90s. Like that's what this movie is for. So like yeah, it's
and it's
very
funny
one
you
note.
bring up just the 90s because immediately when I think of 1999, I also think of The Matrix. And I think there were two movies that came out at a time where we didn't really have a like real world antagonist and we needed to create them. And The Matrix's solution was to go, nothing is real, we fight the robots. And Fight Club's solution was to go, nothing is real, we fight ourselves. And it's like when you kind of look at how those two movies handled some similar philosophies, it's very interesting. But that's not what we're doing. What we're doing today in the year 2020 is going, why can't we do this now?
Mm.
So, Ed, I throw it to you first. Why is Fight Club now a problematic little picture?
Well, I mean, I think it's because, and this is no diss to anybody, including myself, because I found my own issues with it. But when I really like set aside my own biases and whatnot, and I just try to be as neutral as I possibly can, which is impossible, but I try. I look at it and I go, you likened it to another motion picture. I liken it to Starship Troopers. 2 years apart, and at the movie theaters. So people watch Starship Troopers. They see these plastic, jingoistic idiots talked into a fascist conflict, and they think that that's what the movie is endorsing and what it's about. You know what I'm saying? And it's like
Mhm.
they did the same thing with Fight Club 2 years later. They did the same thing with The Matrix the same year. You know, these weird incels talk about take this red pill, take this pill. You need to take some pills and lay down and shut up. Because the cure, even Fight Club says the cure for a heteronormative dude to get their brain right is a woman. Even Fight Club says it. She, Marla, singer, comes into breaks. She's the one who maybe causes Tyler Durden to come out
Mhm.
because the narrator would never make that move on Marla unless he had a cooler personality to do it with. But she also tears up his echo chamber, right? That's
Right.
why Tyler says, "Hey, don't talk to this bitch about me, dog, because she gonna ruin the whole thing." Asking
Mhm.
questions about what kind of toxic, dumbass garbage we're doing, and ruin it, right?
Mhm.
So even that movie, much maligned in our push our glasses up 2020 vision, that movie says the answer. Get yourself into a relationship, be it friendship or romantic. Get somebody else to watch you and check on your brain, son.
Right.
Enter society so that you don't be in this echo chamber and go crazy and take your guns apart all night like a dumbass. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
even this movie, much maligned, as I said, was literally trying to say that. But people fix their mouths to find it problematic right now. That you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
white dudes, and I'm sorry, I don't want to be pejorative, but a lot of white dudes do a lot of navel gazing and a lot of thinking about the self and their space in the cosmos. And this is a direct reaction to white dudes having this weird burden on them that they put on themselves to think, I'm supposed to be Ponce de Leon. I'm supposed to be Alexander the Great. I'm just a guy in a cubicle. A guy in a cubicle making good money, being able to have a colonoscopy anytime he wants to, is a loser compared to only Alexander the Great. But
Right.
that's what they've convinced themselves they got to be.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
talking about that. So I'm just
yeah.
thinking of all the things where white dudes navel gaze and think about themselves, the fact that it took a gay man to write this novel to get all this male zeitgeist behind this thing where the gay man is literally saying, you guys are toxic, the way you're processing your feelings is weird, join society and we can maybe make you a little bit well, and stop measuring yourself against weird crazy ideals that you never match up to so that you can be some capitalist hamster on a wheel. Stop that. And now it's problematic. I don't think so, my sir. I like this movie. I like it.
I think it's interesting, especially the movies you brought up, like Starship Troopers, RoboCop fits into that too. Same director. Like those are satires at the heart of them, and a lot of that sometimes gets missed. Especially this movie is definitely that where they take the wrong things from Tyler Durden and glorify those as opposed to some of the things that like you just mentioned. I was like, yeah, that's where this movie becomes problematic if you pull the wrong things from it. But if you watch it as it's meant to be a satire, then yes, this movie still works in that matter, and it doesn't really have some issues with, like, obviously him going around, like, but that's part of the problem with him going around and joining using grief counseling and all that's an issue. But part of that is, yes, that shows you from the start this isn't a person you should idolize or base your life off of. And I think that's where, unfortunately, Blake and I have talked about that part with this movie. They've glorified and put Tyler Durden's essence on this pedestal, and that's where that gets dangerous.
Yeah, I think it talks a lot about the white male, for toxic masculinity, and the fact that there's a lot of pressure on males in general for like this legacy. There's this pressure that you have to have this to be worthy, and if you don't feel good, you can't seek help. And that's why he does this manipulative thing of going into these different groups and pretending he has very tragic situations, because he feels like his little problems or his mental status isn't important unless he's dying, and that's sad. That's sad that, like, I hope I normalize therapy, because therapy is wonderful. Go to therapy right now. No, listen to the podcast, but then go to therapy. It's great. It's great. But I think that's another big issue, is that he had to, like, make his problems bigger for him to even pay attention to them. Like, that's the tragic thing. It's like you need a hobby, or you need an outlet. Like, that's that's the whole thing. It's like, white men need a hobby. White men need a purpose.
Anastasia, you just hit it very well. Is that I feel like a part of this movie that people miss is that you can be good enough without suffering, which was definitely something that I, even if I may speak up personally about my own shit, is like, when I was in high school, I was the only family who, in my friend group, not the only family ever, obviously, but the only family of my friends who didn't have divorced parents. And it became this very, very strange thing where I would go hang out with my friends who were going through these impossible challenges that I couldn't fathom. I'm also an only child. One of my closest friends, she's her parents are divorced, and she had to basically raise her two siblings. And I would talk to her a lot, and there were weird moments where I was like, well, if I can't talk about how things are okay, I need to somehow be suffering. And I was dealing with depression and other mental health problems that I didn't even realize were there yet. But there's this weird thing that I think you're right, that happens with people of privilege, where they do feel like they either need to be Alexander the Great, or they need to be dying in that moment for them to have any value at all. And everything in between is like, well, what are you doing? How dare, because there is a weird, it's guilt, right? It's Catholic guilt, white guilt, whatever you want to call it.
It's also the fact that you guys have legacy. I feel like it's the guilt and curse of legacy. Like, right? So, like, my dad didn't have, like, know that he was just, I just remember, like, my friends going, I'm actually a descendant of Alexander the Great, and I want to go see the town where Alexander, and I was like, the most famous person in my family is a famous lynching. Like, this is the difference between our legacies. Like, I am just, my legacy is to survive and thrive for my future generations and like future children and their children. Yours is like legacies of like stuff that you can track. I can't track shit like that. And it's insane that I feel like there's a pressure on you guys that it's weird. It's survival versus, like, I don't even know how to describe. I'm probably not describing it right, but I just feel like there's this weird.
And I feel like people learned the wrong lessons in this movie. And I think the thing to distinguish on this episode and with this movie, to kind of Ed's point, the film itself is not problematic. I love this movie. I will continue to love this movie. But you can learn the wrong lessons and then go into life and be problematic as a result of this movie. You can see this. I think of the scene and it's some body image shit that's in the movie that I think everybody deals with. I'm a skinny, fat person. It's weird. I look like a teardrop tattoo. It's not a great time all the time.
And then 10 minutes later
Brad
takes
Pitt,
off his shirt, and you're
looks
like, well,
like
you
Brad
look just
Pitt,
like him.
looks at a male model and goes, "Is that what a man's supposed to look like?" And it's like, okay, washboard abs. You don't get to, like, yeah, you don't get to do that to me. You don't get to tell me as a man that, hey, the modeling agency has it wrong and any shape you are is correct, and then be like, however, I look the way he wants to look, I fuck the way he wants to fuck, and we shamed the shit out of the only overweight character in this movie. So that might be incorrect, but also I am correct, and there's never really a lens on it. So I feel like people take this weird lesson of like, yeah, we should look however we're happy. However, that means you should be perfect.
Right. And also they had that whole scene where like Jared Leto is like, they totally beat the shit out of him. And then they're like, why did you do it? And he's like, I just wanted to destroy something beautiful.
Yeah. And again, you look like Brad Pitt.
That's
Have you
true.
seen, are there not mirrors in your
And Jared
alternate
Leto
universe?
is a problematic character. He has a cold now.
But to be fair,
He looks like Ed Norton.
to be fair, he looks exactly like Ed Norton while he's saying that, and he's talking to nobody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, yeah. So I think that it doesn't excuse them of that. Definitely not at all. Because movies in general, you know, give you this sort of if you're not a kung fu person or you're not a weightlifter, you're not cool. You know, I can't even like I draw. Everybody knows that I draw, and I don't think I've drawn a fat man since the last time I drew myself. You know what I'm saying? I straight do not. I've drawn curvy women and curvy to many degrees, and then lower degrees, higher degrees, all types of body types. But I draw the same buff, V-shaped man every time I draw a man, and it's like, wow, homie, you're a Japanese artist drawing big ass guaylo eyes on every one of your drawings, aren't you?
Well, that's exactly why the first Star Wars toys just got to use He-Man bodies. We just kept it all the same.
But yeah, and you were saying something earlier too about I just think that Anastasia, you were talking about the meetings thing. That is, and I hate to keep saying white man all the damn time, but that is like the
It's
white
fine. I'm the only one
American.
here.
But you know, the white American man piggybacking on everybody
It's funny
else's
because that
trauma.
hit me differently now.
That's
Also
real
another-
as
adult seeing
hell.
what
Yep,
the world
that's
is
also
doing
another
That's
now, how
thing.
that's
real
happening.
as hell. Appropriating
that
different
hits
movements. He
that
showed up at
sweeter
the
issue
sickle
than
cell
I've
meeting,
ever had
homie.
when I watch
I
this
know.
movie.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. And last things last, for this part of it, I just think that thing about the balls, right? We're talking about the man issue of it, the balls. He goes to his testicular cancer meeting. When you get your balls taken away, that's taking away your manhood. Then he goes through all these other factors.
Right.
Da, 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 da. Then when Project Mayhem really gets rolling, he tries to stop it. What's the threat? I'm gonna take your balls.
Balls.
It's always about taking your balls. I will take your manhood from you. You barely have any because you haven't, guillotined a brown person in a weird war for oil yet. You're not a person because you haven't done that yet. And that little masculinity you have left that you waste on Call of Duty, I'm gonna snatch that off your body too. If you don't conform to XYZ militaristic, yada yada yada. It's crazy.
Well, that's the funniest part. You just used the word conform, and the whole movie is very anti-conformity. But whenever anything does anti-conformity, the other option is just conform to this one instead. Like that's, which is again
Use
like
your confirmation over here.
it's amazing because I feel like so many people grew up being like, well, I'm not going to conform to your shit. However, Fight Club, a movie, uses the same archetype as these other movies, and all of these music songs I listen to have the same 3 chords, but I, in my Hot Topic Funko Pop shirt, am different from yours.
How dare you? During this time, it was all goth at Hot Topic.
It makes me think of like other characters that we're talking a lot about normalization, and I feel like part of pop culture is relating to the people you see on screen. We see Iron Man fly around and overcome his problems, and Peter Parker overcome his issues, and we go, I can do it too. I also can shoot the alien, but my alien is my homework, like whatever it is.
But they also don't dig deep into even Iron Man. Iron Man had a darker, deeper shit going on in the comic books than we were ever allowed to see in the movie.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, all these characters, right?
Yeah.
Like, the thing about flawed characters is that they're flawed, and the thing about us as consumers is that we're pretending they're perfect. So we take things like Fight Club, Rick and Morty, Iron Man to a certain degree. And I think of that scene in BoJack Horseman, I think it's season 4, where he's talking about the movie he's in and why it's so great. And the interviewer is like, but you're doing bad things. And he's like, well, no, I mean, we're just showing people the consequences of bad things. I don't think we're not glorifying it. We might be normalizing it. And like, that's when he breaks. And you're just like, oh yeah, like this is drinking is the best example I can think of. There are so many people in college and further on where they're like, well, you know, I'm a struggling writer. I need to have my whiskey when I'm writing because that's the thing you do. It's like, or you have alcoholism.
No, yeah, I used to smoke. I went back when the world wasn't a barren wasteland of tumbleweeds and radioactive dogs. I when I would go out and do comedy, I would smoke up a storm. Like I haven't had a cigarette in like a year, but the middle part of me really getting into stand up right when I got on TV and stuff like that, I was smoking a lot, and it wasn't. I've been smoking a cigarette every 7 months or so since like Boy Scouts. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't ever a big deal. But once I got into the culture of, oh, there's a woman comedian on stage, time for everybody to go smoke. I didn't participate in that all the time, but I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, oh God, you guys suck. You know, and I know Anastasia, I know you've seen it. So it's like, these assholes all want to go smoke. So you go smoke on that occasion. You go smoke. It just gets tied to the comedy. You see people with their notebook and their cigarettes. You know what I'm saying? It became this totem of this life. It's like, dude, you aren't Hemingway and you ain't Joe Cool. So you need to quit it. You need to stop it. And I stopped, and it was like weird being around those spaces without smoking all of a sudden. It was all of a sudden weird because I felt like I didn't have that patch on my uniform, nicotine patch, I guess. But I didn't have that patch on my uniform. I was in the army with everybody, but I didn't have that particular patch on my uniform, so I felt naked. You know, and to extrapolate that, all these dudes, the dude without any muscles, the dude with too many muscles, I went to school with a guy who was a muscle-bound dude, and I guess pretty handsome, but he was dumb as a rock. And he could get a girl to bang him like once or twice, but they would never be his girlfriend. And one time he broke down in front of us and was like, almost like he was crying, talking about why doesn't anybody want to be with him? And it was like, dudes never do that. I can only imagine what would have happened to that dude if he had done that in front of us, and if we had been like, dude, you're okay, you got muscles, and we messed with him and stuff, and we tried to get his self-esteem up, we tried to, hey girlfriend, you gonna catch him, we did that whole thing. But I can only imagine how different that dude's life would have turned out if he never said that to us. What woman would face some horror down the line if we hadn't talked to him that day? You know what I'm saying? So there's all these traumas walking around, trauma bombs walking around.
Well, that's one of the first things you brought up too about the movie, that it paints this picture of like, well, once you have the woman, she'll fix everything. And I can't tell you, Anastasia can probably speak to this better than any of us can on the show, but I can't tell you how many people I even knew in college. I had a roommate who did the same thing. He would read that book, The Game, and whenever we'd go out, he'd be like, all right, Blake, what are you putting on? Are you going to peacock a little bit? Well, if you put on this hat and you do this, and now you remember, what are you trying to pull off tonight? You trying to get a girl to come home? You're just trying to get a number. Because remember, if you're getting a number, you don't want to ask for it. You want to make her ask for your number. That's the trick. And there was always, and then he also, long story short, had a breakdown. The Chicago police came to take him away. I had to stay up all night. That's a whole podcast in and of itself. I had to stay up with him, but I did the same thing where I was like, I don't know, man. Like maybe these things you're saying are why the people don't want to stay with you, but also like a girlfriend isn't going to fix all your problems. And I feel like that's extrapolated in pop culture, even back to Iron Man. There's the like, well, once I have Pepper and she'll run my company and heal me, I'll be fine.
Then I think there's both sides of that in pop culture, right? Once I get a man, I'm gonna be okay. Once I get a man that I can fix and I can take care of, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna be worth it as a woman. And then you guys have to find a woman to fix you and to make it better and blah blah blah. And it's exhausting to have your whole like existence and your relationships be based on that. It's just not healthy. It's like you should be complete, not obviously everyone has issues, but you should be complete within
I
yourself.
agree. I think your relationship should
then
be
just
additive.
find a partner in crime. That's
Something
my
like,
goal
I
in
need
life.
this to
Like,
Meanwhile,
improve my
Terrence
life.
is
'Cause
sitting there
I went through
married,
that
being
same
like,
thing.
I don't know, man. We made all of our
got
lives
before my
happier.
wife. I had yep. And I was like, I'm just gonna take time to myself. I easily can just throw myself back into anything else. I was just kind of like, you know what? I just got to figure my shit out first. And I think not a lot of people do that. A lot of people just hop from relationship to relationship because they think I need to be in a relationship to have some sort of self worth. And yeah, and
yeah.
Luckily, after my last breakup, I had Terrence to be like, no, figure out your shit first. You, sir, are a mess.
That's not how society really views those kind of things, right? Like, so I've stayed single for a long time, and it only recently have I been able to like be like, I could bring somebody into this. And that's because I was working on me, and I was working on my goals and my feelings and stuff like that, and I was complete enough on my own, but I also needed to just deal with my shit, and I felt like that wasn't fair, and that's not where I was at. People used to dog on me about it, like dog on me about it. Why did you bring you're not dating anybody? Like, what's your worth then? I'm like, I can date. Like, that has nothing to do with anything. Anybody can date.
Well, they should never say that to women, though. I'm sorry. I don't want to be sexist. I don't want to bring Patrice O'Neal out of his grave right now, but you should never say to a woman, why don't you have a man? Because the reason why they don't have a man is they don't want one. That's the reason. That's the only reason. That's the only reason you need. It's already preloaded. It's there. Don't ever ask no woman.
I love it.
Don't ever ask no heteronormative woman why she don't have a man, because she could have one. Don't be stupid.
It's true.
Don't be stupid.
But
so
I
like
think
that sucks.
Society puts like this pressure on us to be completed by another person on both sides, and it's just not fair to you because you're a complete entity, and it's not fair to the other person who you're putting all this pressure on in this relationship that is probably doomed because you're putting these weird, unrealistic expectations. Like, he's a mess, and Marla's gonna fix that. Like, how?
She's also a mess.
Yeah, but okay, but that's my point though, Blake. Thank you for bringing that up though, because I think even the movie, again, even in the text, it isn't necessarily that the woman solves his problems. It is that he finally has somebody he can be honest and share his stuff with, and he has literally killed that part of himself that tries to keep so many secrets from his helpmate. He's killed that part of himself that has all these devious plans and stuff. And this person standing in front of Marla at that point wants to be her partner, and she wants to be his partner, and she's expressed that over time. And Tyler wasn't hearing it, but now Jack can hear it, as it were. And I think what your point is very well spoken. She sucks, but he sucks too. Our society is broken because everybody, and I hate to use this 10 and 1 and no rating system, but if you are a certain type of person who sucks, go after another certain type of person who sucks. Because if you try to be with somebody that's better than you, I'm talking about morally, I'm talking about all types of ways, you're going to fail. And I just wish people would really start realizing, doing a little bit more work on yourself and see who you actually match up with. I'm sorry, everybody don't match up with Chris Hemsworth and fucking J-Lo. Everybody don't match up with them. It's like how everybody, that old joke about how everybody who was reincarnated used to be Cleopatra. Y'all all wasn't Cleopatra. Some of you were farmers' wives who died at 15. Yes, I said wife in 15. History's long. You know what I'm saying? So like, stop it with this craziness. Sometimes you suck, and you just need somebody else who sucks to hold your hand, and they don't necessarily have to solve all your problems. But I'd rather have a girl's hand in my hand than a Glock in my hand any day.
Yeah,
And I wish more
they've
dudes
been
would kind
they've
of
been
get
they've
there
been watching
and not
films, they've
and
been
Yeah.
not
watching
not
movies,
worry
and they got
about so
rejected
much.
by
You know,
the
you see these
most
incels.
beautiful
Half
person
of
in
them are
high
incels
school, and
because
that's
they
where they
think they're
set their
supposed to
goal
get
up. It's like, you
some
might
chick
want to
on a
shoot a little bit
magazine.
lower,
You
and
know what
then
I'm
you can have a
saying?
conversation with somebody that's more
Or
at
they
your
got
level, and
rejected
that's
by
when they have
somebody,
a conversation. Correct. And that's something, unfortunately, a lot of people don't get till they
Hmm.
get older. They don't
Well,
realize that it's not all about the physical attraction. Sometimes it is, can you have a
that's
conversation with this person?
Or
That's a
or
good
shoot
start off
more
point.
intellectually than physically. You
right?
know?
well, I remember in high school, my friend was watching Seinfeld, and he was like, "I don't get it. Why is George Costanza getting all these beautiful women? This is he's unemployed. He's this doesn't make any sense to me." But so I guess the
It's a
challenge
TV
then.
show.
Well, so that brings us to the real challenge of the movie and of the episode, and I think what a lot of what we're talking about is how do you keep these complicated characters and not have the audience get the wrong lesson? How do you keep a Fight Club or even a Homer Simpson and not be like, no, 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 this is almost a warning. This is a don't do all of this. This is here for enjoyment. Don't
You
go off
can't
into the
because
world.
you're wherever you're going, where whoever is in the audience, they're bringing their own experiences, right? That's why I can have a very different experience. Like, let's say, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, me sitting there and bringing all my shit into that, I'm gonna see and take away what I take away. Other people will sit there and be like, it's different. It's just different. It's just different because they're coming from a different place and they're seeing different things, and I think
Yeah, I
that's
think
what art
all
is, that's what filmmaking is,
Yeah,
that's
I don't think
what
there's no
books
fail-safe
are
way to
and
do that.
comic
I
books,
think
like we
art is subjective.
kind of
Art gets
project
viewed
ourselves in
different ways.
there
It's a
and we
prism. Once you
take
put
our
it out there, you're kind
lessons
of just like
from there
you're
based on
available for
us.
all
So
type of
I don't know that
interpretation.
you can
I
guarantee
think
that,
Joker,
in my
the movie
opinion.
Joker that just came out, is one of those.
Yeah.
It's huge points. Like people can definitely take the wrong thing from that, and they'll misunderstand what that film is actually putting out there, and I that is where my issues come sometimes with people the way they interpreting things. But there's no fail way, there's no fail self way to make sure people, this is what we want you to say. You're not going to put a disclaimer at the top of like, this is what we want you to get from this, because that also ruins sort of the artistic vision that whoever it is putting out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also though we do need to on a big long list, right? Dismantle white supremacy, then nuclear weapons, then fix capitalism, then wait a minute, sex trafficking, and miss sex trafficking, got to go back up. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things wrong with the world, but one of those many is media literacy. I think we spend very little time teaching children more media literacy than you can't look at these tits and guns until you're old.
Hmm.
That's it. That's what we tell kids about what's appropriate to watch, how to watch it, what lessons they're supposed to get from it. Can't look at tits till you're old. What? That's not the lesson. You know what I'm saying? Can't understand guns and why the terrorists need to die by the droves when John Wick is stabbing them in their eyeballs. You know, you can't watch that till you're old. That's stupid. You're not teaching anybody how to value these things.
Hmm.
And you, Terrence, you said about the Joker. I don't want to get into a fight here, but I don't know if what that movie was trying to say had any value. Because what they essentially in that movie did was, this is the most mediocre white person on the face of the earth. Tries to be a stand-up comedian with a mental problem that allows him to not get a joke out. Sets
Right.
himself up for failure in every way. Hits on the
Yeah.
hottest black girl in the world. His life sucks, and he got beat up, and his brain is messed up, and he isn't the richest person in the world, and doesn't achieve all his dreams. You ain't supposed to. With all those
You and I are on the
problems,
same
you're
boat,
not supposed to
unfortunately.
achieve every damn thing. So the fact that you didn't isn't some tragedy. I'm not moved by the fact that the world ignored you, because come on, man, let's get realistic. You know what I mean? So to me, it was like Fight Club. To me, says more about like, look, man,
Time to murder.
you are fine, and you're making your life shitty because you refuse to take certain lessons. Whereas the Joker goes, your life sucks and can't nobody help you, and guess it's time to shoot people in the face.
Yeah,
You know what
I
I'm
think
saying? That to me, there's such a qualitative difference in that, and I just wish your average 10-year-old could tell you the qualitative difference between those two motion pictures. I think our world would be better if that was the case.
yeah, because the thing people I think miss with Fight Club is they spend so much talking about all this imagery that we don't need and all of these things that we shouldn't have and all these items that shouldn't mean worth. And then the big reveal is like, I look the way you want to look, I live like you want to live, I do everything that you value. And at no point do we ever go, see why that makes him the bad guy? We've been spending this whole movie going, all of the things that make you question your reality are bad. The thing that is now breaking your reality is doing all of those things. That is the bad guy. You're not supposed to go, but I want to be Tyler Durden. You are. Some part of your dumb lizard brain. Obviously, if I could wake up tomorrow like Peter Parker in Spider-Man 1 and not need my glasses, well, I look good with my glasses, I'd keep them. But like have the abs and the biceps and everything else, that would be great. Do I know that I don't
Spider-Man.
need, but I don't need to. But I've accomplished everything in my life without spider sense and all of those muscles.
So proud
it's
of
fine.
you. I'm so proud of you, Blake. You don't need to be Spider-Man.
You had the power the whole time.
Although I should still wear a mask.
You should, though, yeah. For different
Definitely.
reasons. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just so weird. I do like your point about because I was raised to be able to see things if I was curious about them and then have a discussion. And have a discussion about what I felt about it or what I saw in it and what actually was happening or what was, and that was the kind of dialogue I grew up with. And I think it's helpful. And if something was like really like, I remember wanting to see a rated R movie and my mom was like, well,
instead of just
fine,
hiding
but I'm gonna watch
something
it
or
with
saying,
you.
no,
Like
let's watch it and explain it to me.
I just think
was
that
raised,
that
my parents always
breeds better
showed me
character
specifically, this is
than
fake,
purpose.
this is not real, real versus not real, and we would have a discussion about that. That doesn't happen and anymore. A lot of people just use the TV or gaming or phones, and that's their babysitter, and they don't have any type of explanations anymore.
Yeah.
I was like, not in this house, not in this house.
Yeah. So on the same end of the spectrum, I've still never seen a Simpsons episode out of respect for my father.
Wow.
I don't know. He was like, he's such a disrespectful little
But
shit. You're not
Simpsons.
seeing Bart Simpson in anything. I was like, all right, I'm not seeing Bart Simpson in anything, you guys. I was in a rated R movie when I was 5, but I still can't see it.
You and I had a very different 90s.
Dead.
And I just wanted to make a real quick point about also the other types of guys in there, because there are black guys in the Fight Club. There's black guys. I think there's Middle Eastern guys. There's Latino guys in the Fight Club. And I think what's interesting about those guys is the zeitgeist of the educated guy who stands on the soapbox in front of the worker bees and goes, we need to XYZ. Those guys have way more to lose than he does. If those guys get caught at Project Mayhem, they're going to jail. He's gonna go to like, here's your Grey Poupon and your phone. what would you like to watch on television? Jail. If he gets busted at Project Mayhem, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, but again, so people might ask, and women might ask, like, and black women in specific might ask, what the fuck are you doing over there, bro? What are you over there with them for? And 100%. I think maybe Terrence can answer, I can answer. Yeah. There is this zeitgeist of white boyism that you get pulled into if you want to succeed in certain social situations for work and for other aspects of life. Why you think so many Negroes know how to play? I can swing a stick and hit a Negro that can play golf now. Why? Because it's worth it for business. You better know you how to play some golf. You have to adopt some of these things. And it's funny how, like, even in this movie, they pick up these bullshit mores from these white boys and try to figure out how to live in that world of fighting in a dingy basement. I gotta take my $300 Nikes off in this dingy basement. Somebody better wash my shoes. Nobody better not step on my shoes in this dingy basement. I don't want no white boy footprints on my Jordan.
Don't wear those shoes to Fight Club. Have
And
a Fight Club pair.
I just came off of work at the mall. I work at Foot Locker. This is
Change the shoes.
So yeah, I started to go off on a rant there, but that's part of it though. That this sort of it is like a white man's world to a great degree. And when you see black dudes, like you think there's not psychotic black dudes in corporate America, you're out of your fucking mind. You see some of see some of these fools up in these boardrooms and stuff. These dudes have taken on psycho like armor to get up to that level. They've taken on psycho traits and psycho armor to even get there a lot of the times. And Fight Club was just, I think, trying to show that, like, yeah, black dudes, period, get swept up in this. It isn't something we can just blame on white dudes, because I know black women for centuries have been like, why ain't you my friend yet?
Yeah.
Why aren't you all the way my friend yet? We went through X, we went through Y. I marched for you, I did this, and when you got the vote, you was like, these hoes don't need to vote.
Yeah, we have
and
your
on
back
so on and so forth, on up to this day. Why ain't you my friend yet? Yeah. Why can't I unequivocally count on you yet? You know what I'm saying?
It's funny that you say that though, because we talk about it. I'm part of a film group called Women of Color list, and we talk about it all the time. All the time. It's a frustration.
Yeah. So I just had to get that point out, because that does suck. And you can't put it all off on white boyism. It's a lot of maleism. You know what I'm saying? And you gotta own up to that if you wanna try to change it. And you can't just say, I'm gonna change it once I'm inside. Motherfucker, you get in a chimney, you gonna come out sooty. All right? You can't go into the chimney and come out clean. There ain't no damn way. So you need to dismantle the chimney. You know what I'm saying? Dismantle that system. Don't crawl through that dirty ass space to get to power. Dismantle that. Do your damnedest to dismantle that. And I don't think too many dudes do that at all, black, white, or whatever.
No, I think that's one of the really the biggest problem with almost any philosophical movie is that most of philosophy asks you to look inward. Right. And then when we get that spoon fed to us in pop culture, we don't look inward. We then take it and go, they're right. If I was Brad Pitt, it would be fine. I get it.
You're like, no, wait, that wasn't the point.
No. Nope.
But Blake, it's not all your fault. Did you hear Ed? He said it's not all your fault.
Yes.
I've
quietly been aware.
Don't take too much of the car off him. He's gonna swerve out.
A lot of it is. I don't think I personally have contributed, but I'm aware.
Right. All right.
Like, I was raised Catholic and I'm white.
Yeah,
it's there's just guilt everywhere.
Yeah, there's enough. I went to Catholic school for a brief time as a kid. And,
right now?
Yeah, I know how to kneel and stand up for 45 minutes with the best of them. Catholic calisthenics, baby.
If only there was a more comfortable technology available to us in 2020. I think that is the show, guys. Unless anybody else has any more Fight Club points, I could go on about why it's great and how it started my love affair with green lighting and David Fincher movies.
I just say that house was really cool.
Yeah.
It would have been good if people weren't shitting all over it. That's all. Sorry,
I just want to say, love David Fincher and shout out The Game. Terrence brought it up earlier. The Game, another one of these movies where you are a rich white boy for the runtime of the movie. Yeah. You are him. It's almost like Hardcore Henry from his perspective of being a rich white dude. And it was written by the guys who wrote The Net, which is a very similar movie with Sandra Bullock in it, which I suggest you look at because it's got some of the funniest 1998 computer screens you will ever see in your life. It's so funny. It's like watching Pong as like the NASA computers or something. It's so funny. But yeah, The Game is a very good movie. and one of the few, like, people talk about Panic Room more than they talk about The Game, and I'm like,
Yeah.
A couple, but like
shut it
the
down.
game, the
No,
game
The
is so high on
Game
my
is
list that even for
very
a while
good.
I would give that to people that I'm dating.
I don't think
Like,
there's a bad movie
tell
in
me
that
what you feel about
that
this, and
man's filmography.
if you don't like this,
well,
we're done here. Yeah.
game.
Was that your tester?
Oh,
You gotta have a tester.
Oh yeah,
you
you
guys.
gotta
a
have it.
tester.
You gotta have it. Well, that was our show, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, give us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or wherever else podcast reviews are available to you.
Or
You can,
live.
of course, find our show anywhere podcasts are available, your Tower Records, your iTunes, your Apple Store, everywhere. Anastasia hates that joke, and it makes me want to do it every single time. You can then find the rest of what we do. Terrence and I do another movie podcast called Hollywood Already Did It, about reboots, remakes, sequels, adaptations, anything that's been done before and is being done again. Sometimes it comes out during quarantine. New releases are few and far between.
Oh, dude,
And
I just gotta interject here. We should do a combo. Like, we should do like, you guys do that, and I do Reboot It, and we do like a combo plate episode, like a crossover. You know
I'm
what I'm
all
saying?
about it. I'm
Yeah.
all about it. Let's do it. Great.
Yeah.
And then Anastasia, Terrence, myself, and 2 other hosts, Maria and Zane, do another one called One More Drink, which is about whatever we want it to be about. Right now, it's about our various first times, your first album, your first movie theater sneaking into. It's our silly comedy drunk show. I do one with Justin Donaldson from UCB called How Do You Figure, about action figure collecting. Terrence runs the Hollywood Already Did It YouTube page for everything we don't get to on that podcast. Anastasia has all of her comedy shows on her Instagram page. She also does the Hysterical History podcast and Serial Killer, about serial and about killers. And Ed, please plug all of your things and tell us where the good people can find you.
Oh yeah. Well, you can check me out. And again, thank you guys for having me on the show. Honestly, when Anastasia hit me up and said that you, Blake, were on it, and then I didn't know you, Terrence, but now I'm very happy that you're here. Like now, like I wasn't before. I didn't know.
Just now.
Anyway, the bottom
It's
line
really
is,
come together.
this rug really pulls the room together. Terrence pulls this room together. So like I think that this is a great podcast. I love you guys' approach. It's very smart, and I'd like to be a guest in the future. So basically, people can check me out at Ed Greer Destroys on Twitter and Instagram. I have my Nerd Goat Patreon, which it's a Patreon that exists right now. I might rebrand it as the Ed and Ron Patreon. My co-host on Nerd Goat. Because basically, maybe this is the first place I'm announcing it. But we're not doing our podcast anymore because our network is a bunch of assholes. So we decided to leave that, start our own thing, and do a new show on my YouTube channel, which is Reboot It. We do kind of like what you guys do, discuss the reboots and stuff, but we actually try to do them in real time. So like the 4 of us, myself, Billy Business, Ron Swallow, and producer Bill, we try to like reboot The Flash. Like our first episode for the 3rd season is us rebooting The Flash in an hour. We're gonna do it by hook or crook, and we're not gonna use any of the ideas from the Flash movie that is out. So, and we did it for Batman already. We did Wolverine, how we would introduce him into the Marvel universe proper, all that stuff. So yeah, Reboot It is a very imaginative show. I urge people to go check that out. And Nerd Goat has 150 episodes. Watch it until they pull the RSS feed, I guess. And Anastasia has a great episode on there. She's a little wild on it, but I like the episode.
I would never.
So thank you for letting me prattle on, and just check out Reboot It. And we're doing a season 3, and we're also putting a bunch of more programming on there. And right now, you can support me on Patreon by going to the Nerd Goat Podcast, or Patreon.com/Nerd Goat Podcast, and kick down a few shekels for all these extra shows I'm doing while we're getting the new free show up and running.
Amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ed. This has been great. We'll see you next time.